search. I was on. Guys, wait. You might have to repeat everything
Why?
because
बोल
I again forgot that the streaming
कौन
software every time resets the
ओह लॉल
my sound devices.
थँक्स तेच कळालं ह्याने वाचला
Yeah.
आता निर्मिकने I'll
Search.
I'll start again
I was on. Guys, wait.
lol
And somebody's video is. You might have to repeat everything. You might have to mute. I don't know who's
it was
Why?
my phone so
because
बोल
I again forgot that the streaming
कौन
software every time resets the
ओह लॉल
my sound devices.
थँक्स तेच
That's
कळालं
my only. Okay.
थँक्स अमोद थँक्स फॉर द हेड्स अप
I think we're good now. Yeah, thanks, man.
hang on
Amod.
hey I'll be back give me 2 minutes
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Oh, I need to repeat myself. What a bummer, guys. I was on mute.
Yeah. Everybody was on. Sorry about that, guys.
Technical challenges, technical. So the session has been temporarily suspended due to technical challenges. Kindly be with us. Sorry for the inconvenience. This is your moderator.
I think there is an audio video delay because I finished talking with Kedar and then I saw the TLK to me again. It was freakish. Yeah. I mean, there will be some delay in what gets
Yeah,
streamed
but
because
where are
I
you reading this? There, I don't see live chat.
there is
Oh,
it's in live
oh,
chat.
oh, live chat just refreshed for me. Wow. I don't
I
know
mean,
which century I'm living in.
it's much
18th
better than
century, I guess.
Twitch chat, but yeah.
You know the problem with Geo Fiber, these guys are only giving it to commercial buildings, and these guys are not even interested in providing connections, fiber optic connections for uh, households.
Yeah, I
How
mean,
pathetic.
yeah, they're not gonna spend money on individual connections
Any,
unless like
anyways, let's not get into that. Over to you, Mr. Kedar. We are back online, guys. This is our fifth podcast. Welcome all those who have joined in the chat. Welcome. Thanks, Samod. Thanks for making us realize that we made a terrible mistake. I think that will not happen from next time. Sorry for the
hopefully.
inconvenience.
I can't guarantee, but hopefully, because I don't remember things. But anyways,
okay all right so I'll start today's topic is political system and mostly we'll be understanding Indian political system and we'll be comparing it with the US and to certain extent UK. We are not experts here, we are just sharing information and it's just a thing we should know. So from what I understand from what I can recall
also
guys
like
no,
yeah,
just continue.
yeah. Also, just another like disclaimer for important one that even though the title says political system, it's about civics, right? It's not about politics in India, and we are not uh, presenting any views or even our personal views with respect to the parties and left and right or any of that stuff. It's all very personal to everybody, so just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, so that's like, we need to give a disclaimer if there are some thoughts, anti-left, anti-right thoughts. Please, internet, don't jail us for anything that we say
Yeah, no, I think we are gonna
if it
try
offends
to
you.
make sure that we don't mention any such things in the first place. In the worst case, if something slips out, just yeah. I mean, these are personal opinions. We don't mean to influence anybody with those.
These are my and my only.
Yeah. It's like that precursor that you get for investment.
I don't
investments
know.
and subject to
I don't know.
market
I just
risks.
Kedar was talking about the marks. So there was 50 marks paper for history in our school days. I think I'm not sure if he was in SSC, but
Yeah, he
I for
was.
sure was in SSC and state board, Maharashtra state board. And I also remember we having that 40-10 pattern for history and civics,
Yeah.
which also makes me recall the memory of buying a separate civics textbook.
Yeah, the
And
very
it
thin
was
one,
much,
right?
it was, yeah, it was much thinner than the history one. And I used
Yeah.
to, even I used to kind of when we used to buy that at the start, I mean, I just remember it very um, vaguely that that thin textbook actually made me happy that okay, this is something that I don't need to read a lot about. And then even I end up understanding civics was much harder than the
Yeah.
usual history lessons that we had. So I just had that memory.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
just
And it was
recalled it.
also weird that, I mean, if you look at it, economics was paired with geography. It has nothing to do with geography.
Ah, right, exactly,
Yeah, history,
exactly.
civics, and geography, economics. And I mean, in reality, economics is nothing about geography. It's again more about civics and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess
Now, when I'm in my 20s, I realize that I should have known economics much better
it's true.
than
Even this civics, right? I mean, what Kedar said, which is like if you're
exactly,
not aware, you might not vote, and if you do, then you might go for to by face value. I think that's so true because very
exactly.
honestly, I am probably like the least knowledgeable here with respect to anything civics related. So here, this session is going to be a lot of learning for me too, and that's true because I mean, like I said, what Kedar said is so true because I mean, I never got to vote when I was in India, but um uh, even if I am there and if I have to vote, I don't know enough to actually take a sound decision. I would just go by face value, and I have my reservations and my opinions about every politician or party and all that stuff, like everybody else. But like Kedar said, it's at face value, right? It's not deep rooted or in knowledge, and I think that's
I
much
think
more dangerous, right?
I think today it is much more evident. Like people blindly follow, but then I think it's more of a. I mean, I would agree that it's 50-50. That if I'm a responsible voter, I should know who I'm voting. Uh, but I think in today's era, it's more of face value. What image you have, what following you have. I mean, I remember a couple of discussions we had on your previous podcasts where we talked about how social media is being used to capitalize on image building as well as influence and kind of target a particular audience in a particular geography. So that's a different story. But I think today more than I mean, if you're not a responsible voter, by responsible voter I mean if you're not a person who has at least some background knowledge about what the candidate has done, what is their progress,
Yeah.
what has their contribution, what has been their contribution. I think most of us go for the uh, you know publicity that these guys are. I for sure have done that a couple of times. I mean, come on, everybody has their political opinions. I
Yeah.
remember we having fights with my parents that they used to be left, I used to be right, or something like that. But in the end, it was like, come on, let's see how. And literally, I mean, no joke, no kidding, but there were times once or twice I have done EBCD. Akkad
Wow.
bakkad Bombay bo.
Okay, that's that's dangerous, but yeah. Uh, I wonder how many people have done that. Amod is saying I can say the same. Civics is not my forte nor politics, so I will be all ears today. Yeah, that's great, man. And Kedar is big time on politics. Yeah, definitely. I've caught Kedar in the act, by and by that what I mean is I've found him on Clubhouse in rooms talking about all these things. politics and civics and all that. And I was like, damn, these guys on clubhouse rooms that talk about this, that's pretty uh, politics nerdy, I guess, right? But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So just a preface, Ketar is gonna talk a lot about all of this because he's much more knowledgeable than us, and he'll be back soon. Unfortunately, he had some temporary thing that he had to attend to, urgent. So he'll be back. But until then, let me just give an overview of what we might cover today, right? So and this is not limited to these topics, but these topics most probably will come in. So we're going to talk about you know systems like presidential versus parliamentary systems. We're going to talk about stuff like head of state versus head of government, and whether they can be one or different, and sorry, and where in the world it's like that. We're going to talk about lower and upper houses, which is, as we know in India, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, right? And what they entail, how the election process works for India versus maybe a little bit about how it works for US or something. US has something called electoral college and what that means, how many seats each of these houses have, what's that majority stuff and all that things. Um, so we'll talk about that. Then we'll also talk about the procedures of passing a bill, right? When new law needs to be enforced, and it's first introduced as a bill usually, right? So how is it passed through the houses? US has a little bit of different system. Like, it does allow presidents to have executive orders, but I don't think India has that. I'm not sure. But so differences and similarities between different systems like that, what the importance of it is. We'll also talk about something like presidential rule in US versus India, like when it can be enforced, does it exist in both the places, and what it exactly does, what the differences are, etc. And then also we'll talk about the judicial system, because I think there's like three pillars or something like that. Judicial, um I don't remember the names of the pillars actually, but yeah, judicial is one of them. That I know. We'll talk about the differences in the judicial system, how many high court judges are there, Supreme Court judges, and what, how much of their say is and everything, who can appoint them, and stuff like that. Because I think that is interestingly different in different democracies and stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's indeed a topic in itself, and there's a lot to talk. But let's see what we can discuss today. I mean, let me share a fun fact. Amongst the constitutions in across the world, which I mean, different countries have their own constitutions.
Correct.
The Indian constitution is the longest.
Oh, really?
People say it's a fact that I read that the Indian constitution is around. Let me check. It is 11 lakh 7,369 words worth. So the total number of words are 11 lakh, and it's the longest, and it is also known to be uh, written by taking different constitutions and references, like one from USSR, the US, the UK.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, and it actually took around 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days to write this Indian constitution.
Interesting.
To give and reference, the smallest constitution that exists right now is the one of Monaco, which is only 3,814 words.
3,000.
814 words, whereas we have 11 lakh 700 and 369
I
7,369 words.
That's interesting. I wonder what, how it affects a country. Like how detailed your constitution is, how much that affects the country and the policies in that country, and different things. That's really interesting. Um, and say this. So
I'm
you
not
know.
sure, but then it actually depends upon the needs or India being a culturally diverse country,
Hmm.
maybe there's a need to jot down rules and constitutions and legislations around various various groups around the country, as well as India has a lot of states. I think per state the law is same, the constitution is same. But then again, it's a cultural
It's tried to be made inclusive, I guess.
exactly.
Amod is saying it's all bullshit and they planned it like that. What do you think? So they can do corrupt things. These are all my assumptions. No, I don't think that's true, Amod. Uh, I mean, I think the constitution was written by really scholar people and the people who were there back then who contributed to independence of India and stuff. Can you look up? I don't know if you remember. I don't. Who wrote our constitution? But um,
Come on,
like, wasn't it Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar? Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't
Baba
sure.
Sahib
So
Ambedkar.
yeah, yeah. So I think like they had good all they had good intentions in mind. I don't think they bothered about corruption and all. They were good people. So I think they wrote the constitution to be inclusive
I
and
think I think
good
it's
people.
not about good and bad. Neither do I agree upon the fact that people do corruption and all those things. That's aside. That's a different story.
Hmm.
But what fascinates me is the nature of. I mean, I'm not that literate in terms of how the constitution works, what it has, and all those things. But from what I have read around across civics and Constitution of India, the complexity with which each cases have been, jotted down in it, whereas managing or describing about various cases in it, case might be a wrong word in here, but then the point being, it's actually so detailed that people who wrote it were actually if you even check or even if you do some fact checks around the Indian constitution, you would realize that the people who are working on it were actually way ahead of
Hmm.
that time, as well as in terms of their thinking towards
Yeah.
how the government should be. No doubt people use references, and it always speeds up things in terms of how things should be, but uh, these guys who wrote the Indian institution constitution were no joke. They were literally uh, way ahead and way scholar in their
Correct.
time. Even Baba Sahib Ambedkar, I mean, most of us don't know about him, but then he was a guy was very very well educated.
Yeah, yeah, he was, yeah.
I'm back.
Nice. Welcome back.
Kedar
Sorry.
is back in time.
So, okay, so I missed everything. I had some emergency, so I had to go off.
That's fine.
Not a problem. We were
Uh,
just discussing about some facts and constitution and
Yeah.
yeah, I just
To
gave an overview of what we are going to talk, right? The
mm,
list that we made last time we discussed this. So, yeah, just that, and then we were talking about just the constitution. But the stage is yours now. We'll shut up.
okay.
let me add one fact. I
Yeah.
think Kedar, if you can support me if correct me if I'm wrong in this case. India got its independence on 1945, 15th
I-
August 1945.
47.
India? No, it's
47. Oh,
47 here.
sorry. 45 was World War. 47.
Hmm.
What?
My
Yeah.
bad. What am I? So India
Uh-huh.
got its independence in 1947, and around 1946 they were working on December 1946 they were working on this constitution, and it took them 3 years
Yeah.
Yeah.
to enforce it. And in 26 January 1915,
1960.
that was
Oh,
1950.
1950. 50. Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, 26 January 1950, these guys actually legally enforced the Constitution of India.
Correct.
Hmm.
It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took 3 years, and I think they did come up with a good constitution. So,
Hmm.
couple of things to add. So when US came up with its constitution, there were still slaves. Like you could, hold, buy, sell a slave. which was very odd because the constitution itself said
Oh,
that because the constitution itself said that every man is free, but that was not the reality. And
so
the
even
fa- Hmm.
I'm interrupting. So even slavery was legal at that time.
Yeah, it was still legal in US, and US got
Hmm.
independence in 1776.
Crazy.
uh, and what happened was, so the founding fathers, George Washington, and I think I don't remember the others, but four or five more president after them, even they had slaves.
Yeah, yeah.
The presidents had slaves. George Washington himself had like 250 slaves or something, and later on, I think you must have heard Benjamin Franklin.
Franklin, yeah.
So he was not a president. It's a misconception, but he was a part of the government. He was ambassador, I think, to some country in Europe, and he was an inventor. Even he had slaves, but he was more like he wanted to get rid of. He knew that it was wrong to have it, but when this thing was going on, they were more like this basically it was. So
Benjamin
coming back
Franklin
to
is
our,
on the notes, right?
I
Some US notes.
I
I
I
think
don't
he's the
know if
only
he's a,
non-president who is on a note or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyways,
maybe, I don't know, I don't remember. So coming back to Indian constitution, of equivalent would be still having a caste system, something like that. uh,
I think we still do,
so
right?
it is more like it is in society, but it's not in a part of government, like you
Okay,
cannot
got it.
apply to this job because you are uh,
Okay,
from this community.
got it,
So
got it. There's
anyone,
no,
and
there's
yeah,
no oppressing level,
yeah,
oppressing kind of things. But yeah, okay, got it.
Caste discrimination,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. Caste discrimination, like on paper it's not there. At
Hmm.
least you have to get it on paper correct, so that you can start enforcing it in law. So
Hmm.
it happens, the caste discrimination is there, it happens. But at least our constitution didn't start with although there were other things like homosexuality, I think it was carried over by the British rule, because that was there. Although I don't think Indians were very much concerned with like banning homosexuality. I don't think people care. If you look at, we are like progressive a bit, but if you look at our parents, I don't think even they were like, no, 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 we cannot allow this, we have to ban
Yeah, I
these
don't think they
people and
even
stuff.
think about it. I think it was
I think
not big
more.
a thing back then. I think.
I think more than banning, I think people are not aware about thing even
Ah,
if something like that exists.
exactly, exactly.
Uh, because if I talk about these things today with people around me or in circles and around my circle, they some of them still believe that okay, this is all bullshit and things like these don't exist.
Yeah,
But anyways,
it's yeah, but yeah, I agree. Like basically, the constitution, yeah, it took 3 years, and
I
they,
think I think you are adhering to the fact that we just discussed while you were away. The Indian Constitution has been, borrowed. So a lot of things are borrowed
yeah,
from the US, USSR, or the UK and France, French Constitution while it was being written.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. It was they took a lot of parts from
Hmm.
from other countries, and I think that's a good thing, because they had it more. They didn't have it perfect, but it was the best.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so another thing is, with respect to India, India, um, so we have a president and we have a prime minister, but in US it's just a president.
President.
In UK there is a prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
There is no president.
Right.
Uh,
Before we get into this, I
hmm,
have a question.
yeah,
Someone had asked me, and even I have. I mean, I did not took the effort to go online and research about it. But then the question is, if you said that US got or US former government or wrote its constitution or US got its independence in 1770. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. It got its
So
freedom. Yeah.
freedom from whom? Who was ruling US before they got their independence?
UK.
British.
British.
Is that so?
Yeah,
Yeah. Why?
but no, but the
Because I don't know
fundamental
about it.
no, but the
Okay.
fundamental story of independence of US is much different than India. It's not like they were being oppressed or anything like that, like how bad it was in India. It wasn't like
Yeah.
that. It was more about okay, we want to be our own country now. That's it. Because
Yeah.
US like, I mean, I don't want to say it that way, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but the US white people are mostly immigrants only. In US, the native people were called Red Indians or
Indians.
rednecks.
Indians.
Yeah.
Not
So,
rednecks. Rednecks is a different thing.
oh really? Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. Red Indians.
Yeah.
But they were the native people, and yes, they did oppress them. But that was in the very beginning, and the independence was not like the Red Indians fighting against the British or
Yeah.
anything like that. It was just
Mhm.
later generations of the Britishers who had come there said, okay, now we want our own country and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's
So
it's a different story.
they were British people only who had been living in the US, born in the US,
Yeah,
and they formed their own nationality
yeah.
because UK was treating them like shit. Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
make America great again.
Yes, we will. Anyways, yeah. So coming back to the presidents and prime ministers, so we have this concept of a presidential system and a parliamentary system, and we have uh, we call these things countries, like India is a country and all, but the actual term is nation states, the original word. And
Okay.
so uh, India as a state, okay, I don't think like Maharashtra as a state. India is
Got it.
also like a state, and the
Mm-hmm.
head of the state is one thing, but head of the government is a different thing,
Okay.
and it is based on the country where you live in. So in India, we follow a parliamentary system where we have a president
Mm-hmm.
who has some executive powers, and then we have our prime minister who has his own responsibilities. When it comes to UK, the head of the state, they don't have a president, but the head of the state is the royal family, the queen.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
monarch.
yeah. So it's I think UK is a what's that word? It's a republic, but they also have a monarchy.
Monarchy. Yeah, they are
Yeah, no, but
monarchies.
like not like Nepal was recently like a pure monarchy. Like
Oh,
king is like a ruling, but
mm-hmm.
in UK the king, they are not
Got it.
ruling.
Got
Yeah,
it.
they are
I
just there
think
for the status.
I
But
think
yeah,
Nepal, like Nepal, there is Myanmar and few other countries from Southeast Asia
yeah,
uh, that do still have this monarchy, and
yeah. Basically, the king was probably calling the shots, right? In
hmm,
Myanmar, maybe I think in Myanmar, it's a different because the military calls the shots.
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah,
Literally,
exactly.
military calls the shots.
Different
Literally.
story. Different
Pun
story.
intended.
Yeah. So,
So I do have a
mm,
question. So when we compare it to US, for example, right?
yeah,
So US has a president and vice president, right? We have a prime minister and president. We don't have a vice prime minister or vice
We
president
do
either,
have.
right? And correct me if I'm wrong.
We do
So
have.
we have a vice prime minister.
yeah, we do. I don't know, but we do.
My bad then. Okay.
uh,
Again, I'm dumb. Okay, so please. Uh,
but it's even no, even I am done with. It's called
It's
deputy prime minister,
yeah.
but it's more like sometimes it's there, it's not there. Even I'm
so who's the
confused. Like,
current deputy prime minister?
so currently we don't have, but last time I recall, we had LK Advani as deputy prime minister when Vajpayee was the prime minister. But after that, we didn't have. I don't know what powers does he have, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but if it's optional, I'm not guessing it's the same roles as president versus vice president. So, I mean, my question was, how does that compare? Like, what responsibilities does a vice president have in US versus Does a president in India mean similar to vice president in US versus prime minister to president? Like, is it something like that, or is it completely different?
So US is a bit different because in US the head of state and the head of government is the same person.
Hmm.
So
Which
it's
is the
more
president,
like,
right?
yeah, which is a
Okay.
president. So they
Okay.
do not have a prime minister, and they have US presidents have to some extraordinary powers like veto, and I'll tell you when we come to the bill passing section what the
Okay.
US presidents can do. They have some amazing extraordinary powers which
Yeah.
they can do a lot of harm or good, but mostly they do harm.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's different. And what happened to Satvik?
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So in India, like one thing I noticed, I got to know that actually they, if there is a war like situation, it's the president who declares war. It's not the prime minister.
Emergency.
Yeah, and also the emergency. But
Mm-hmm.
in India, like it's more like it's not because president is thinking of his own. Uh, it's not, president doesn't declare war or emergency because he wants to, but the government is he's influenced a lot by the government.
Got it.
So I think when we had emergency in 1970 during Indira Gandhi, so we had an emergency. So it was not because the president wanted it. It was because he was kind of forced to.
But what was the link with assassination of Rajiv Gandhi? Was it
Uh,
linked? Was it linked? I think the emergency was around that period, right? Correct me.
no, Rajiv Gandhi was later on. So I think
Okay.
the Indira Gandhi episode was when there was some rigging with the election, and that's why.
We need to brush up history. I think even
Yeah,
the Kabul war.
yeah. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a rigging in general election, and
Mm-hmm.
Indira Gandhi became prime minister. But there was a case going on. I think in Uttar Pradesh High Court it went, and the court found that the election was rigged. So she had to give up power or something. So she declared
Mm-hmm.
emergency. That was the case. And the Rajiv Gandhi thing was a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rajiv Gandhi thing, we didn't have emergency or something like that, but there was a massacre of six. There's a different thing,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting part of history, a very dark part of Indian democracy also, because the a lot of lives were lost, and it becomes like there are some events happen in a country's history that it's like a taint, like a stain on the democracy. Like we just recently saw one of the biggest one, January 6th, the US Capitol was attacked.
Yeah.
So that is like, it doesn't, although they didn't overthrow the government, but it was Ahmad says आप chronology समझ लिए. uh, it's a very bad thing, uh,
Yeah.
it shouldn't happen. So it was episode like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's civil unrest, which are, I think,
Yeah.
some of the most tainting things in history. With respect to Indira Gandhi, as far as I know, like you said, I think there was some massacre with Sikhs or something, and that's why her bodyguards, two bodyguards who were also Sikhs, they assassinated.
Yeah, that was I think so what happened was there was emergency, and she had to quit, and then they had another election where she lost, and
Yeah.
then there was another election she won and she
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And during that time there was some militants had taken control of Gurudwara,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
the Indian army went in, and although they cleared out the militants, it was again if you look at it, a taint on the like a religion, because how can like army come into the holy site with guns and have have a fight, tanks, like there were Indian army tanks in the holy site. So it's a very controversial topic. I don't know much in detail. Like I've seen some good explanations on it. So that made a lot of Sikhs angry, and Indira Gandhi's two bodyguards were Sikhs, and they killed
Yeah.
her. And that again, people were really angry. So yeah, it's a different. So the emergency was a different thing. Her killing was another thing, and Rajiv Gandhi was a different thing totally.
I don't know
Interesting.
about Hercules either, so but okay.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah.
it is.
Another thing that I mean, you might be have plans to come to it later. I don't know, but I do want to know about a little more detail in the election system, and probably most people know, but I don't properly
Mm,
know about who we elect, how versus like for example, when US votes,
mm.
who do they vote for, and then who elects the president and all that stuff, versus when we vote, who do we elect and where does it go and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you wanna take on this, Satvik, for the Indian thing?
I I for sure just have a brief knowledge about how the elections work and how the votes are counted. Basically, there are constituencies, and each of them are divided into. Maybe I'm wrong at this moment, but wards. Small groups per ward. There is an election. There is a candidate from a particular party, and then uh, these are then. Hey, hi!
Hi guys,
Who just
what's up?
popped in?
I might have to hop off in some time, but I'm ready to listen until then. Yeah, so I've been listening over the YouTube. Um,
Mm,
so
Oh.
you might want to continue.
Okay. So the thing that I know about elections is there are these constituencies and there are these, if they are also called as wards, I'm not sure, but that's the smallest unit. So right now, if I'm living in this particular area, it comes under a particular ward. There are numbers to this. So let me check what is the total number of wards in Nasik.
So until then, the one thing I know is that um, the right from the beginning, India decided that every person should have a polling booth or a poll casting booth within 2 kilometers of their of where they are. So that's how the wards, I guess, are divided, where every single individual has at least one polling booth within 2 kilometers of where they are.
So I think that it has a different. I mean, it has a lot of aspects to this. So that can also be traced to what kind of elections these are. If these are Vidhan Sabha elections, Gram Panchayat elections, central elections, central government elections, because that is something which I very well know. We have learned in our civics days. And what I'm talking about these is, I mean, I just read that Nasik district has 108 wards and total. So the entire district has these many wards, and from each ward there is a candidate from each party, and the hierarchy goes on. So if you are at the ward level, that would then go on the district level. It also follows with the local municipality elections and all those things. So there are different elections for different organizations. But if you talk about Vidhan Sabha, there are these wards. If you talk about central government elections, these are completely different. But in general, it is drilled down in this hierarchy. Like there is a high level candidate. For example, right now, Mr. Narendra Modi is representing. He is not representing. Amit Shah and all these guys are representing Bharatiya Janata Party, and then Sonia Gandhi is representing, as of this moment, if correct me if I'm wrong, is representing the NCP. So then there is this hierarchy,
mm. She's
and
a yeah. She's representing Indian National Congress, INC.
okay,
Yeah, and NCP is Sharad Pawar. So
Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't be
So
sorry. Why are you being sorry?
I did not know that. So I think I know that much about how the elections work in India.
Yeah. uh, there are different powers also with respect to these positions that people hold. So but for that we actually, I need to explain you how the bills pass, and then I can tell uh, my understanding of the responsibilities, like from an MP, how the roles of an MP differ from an MLA. But for that, let me tell you, like, do you know how the bills get passed?
Hmm.
Like, if okay, just
I
Satvik,
don't.
like if you wanna,
So from what I can recall, if there is anyone, correct me at this moment, is it the ruling party who is supposed to propose a bill?
I
Yeah,
think,
correct.
n- no, anyone can propose a bill.
But
It needs a,
what in case the opposition right now is proposing a bill, and how does that work?
it's all about support. I
Okay,
think,
all right.
like, even if like you're a ruling party and you don't have support, you cannot pass a bill.
All right. Yeah, correct. So that is what I was going to come. So if someone is proposing the bill, it is first discussed in the Lok Sabha,
Hmm.
and based upon the majority of votes, it is then passed on to the Rajya Sabha. And even in Rajya Sabha, it should be, this is for central government. And even
Hmm.
in Rajya Sabha, it should be passed by majority. And once that is done, it goes to the president. Then president signs it off, and then that's how the bill is passed. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's drafted in Lok Sabha. Then if it passes Lok Sabha, it goes in Rajya Sabha. It may fail over there.
Hmm.
Either it will pass, or if they don't agree, because sometimes it can be different parties holding majority power. So then they
Hmm.
suggest amendments, and then it goes down again to Lok Sabha, and then they again vote again. So there's like more like compromise. The whole system
Hmm.
is designed to slow things down. The point of the, yeah, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but it actually makes sense, because you don't want to rush things. uh, it's more like, even though a party has a majority, if you can get consensus, that means it's a good bill. But sometimes a party might think that actually their bill is the best and it might not get support, so we just have to push it through. And a party in opposition might think, well, this is good bill, but if we let them pass, they get the credit, and what will we do?
Exactly.
So yeah, so there
I mean,
is,
let me add another point. Even the president has enough capabilities to reject a bill. So unless and until
yeah,
his consent are given, the bill is not passed. So even if Lok Sabha has passed the bill, Rajya Sabha has passed the bill, the president of India can reject it and ask them to again make some amendments and restart the process.
correct. It's like his
Hmm.
final say. Same thing in US. A president can reject a bill if it gets to his desk.
In US,
Okay.
So
president can't do anything.
yeah, so for example, under Obama, the lower house and upper house were both the opposition party control, and Obama was the president. So the a lot of bills reached his desk, and he just it's called veto. So he
Right.
just kept rejecting, and then he can introduce his own thing. So for example, President Trump signed a lot of executive orders of
Executive
building
order.
a wall, or calling it an emergency, and then getting funds from the emergency thing, like with the fund which is supposed to be for cyclones would go for border wall. There are a lot of it's a very controversial thing, but you get the idea. It's
Yeah.
so the final say is president. So I think from what I understand, so these are MPs, right? Lok Sabha MPs and Rajya Sabha MPs. They when you elect them from your constituency, uh, They are mostly going there to sign a bill. I don't think they get money to come and do something in your constituency. I'm not sure, because that mostly is like part of the MLA. When you are sending an MP from your state to the center, they are mostly doing this, coming up, coming up with bills which will move the country forward. But like in our Vidhan Sabha, which we is like state election and all, state election, they get budget to, you know, do some development work.
I
So
Uh,
guess
what's the difference between MP and MLA first of all?
so MLA is, each state also has its state election. We choose the chief minister,
Hmm.
and even that has a house. I think.
yes. So
I th-
the upper house
mhm.
is called Vidhan Parishad. Sorry, Vidhan Sabha, and the lower house is called Vidhan Parishad.
Okay, yeah. Um, I don't know much about state level, but I've heard these terms,
Yeah.
and
So
I. Mhm.
even the bills in states, they need to pass through these two houses, but mostly the bills on the state level is finalized by Vidhan Sabha. That's what I've heard of. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
yes.
So now,
But MLAs represent states. They are
hmm.
more they work on a state level, but
Oh,
MPs they work on the central level,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, MPs work on central level. So,
Right.
so country level
mm,
basically.
yeah, country
Yeah,
level.
national. Yeah.
So
So mostly,
MP, MLA, and then what about
No, no,
within the
no,
state if you're
no, no, no,
And then
no,
the
no,
local
no,
karyakartas.
no. MP and MLAs are different.
yeah, yeah, I
So
understand.
yeah,
MPs
Yeah.
they hierarchy,
represent
they no, no, no. The point is their hierarchy is different.
they are in different
MLA,
systems.
yeah,
Ah,
So,
exactly,
yeah,
okay,
completely
got it.
different
Okay,
system.
okay, okay,
yeah,
okay, got it.
So that's an outbound variable access. So it's
yeah.
segment fault. The thing is, I just want to add when as we are talking about elections, the way the representatives in Rajya Sabha, the way they are chosen, the way they are elected is completely different
Yeah, I want to know about that basically.
from the way the Lok Sabha MPs are elected. So Lok Sabha elections are like central government elections. The way uh,
Mm,
what's the last time Narendra Modi contested for this or BJP contested? I'm not sure.
2019.
19, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was the central government elections, and later
Yeah.
on, I think a year or two, it was Vidhan Sabha elections,
right.
wherein
Mm.
uh, then we
It.
choose MLAs.
Yeah, but it's like depending on which state. I think Maharashtra happens like 6 months, immediately 6 months after general election, something like that.
Okay.
So
Uh,
these states exclude the union territories, okay?
Union
Except
territory in Union territory, president is in control.
exactly.
So,
yeah.
for example, Andaman and Nicobar, the
Mm,
presidential rule is there, but there are still local. So it's about central. Okay,
Right.
mm,
central. So the central government has no role in the politics or the civics that is going on in the union territories, whereas
mm,
do have local governments and
mm.
they do have local municipalities and all those things, but the central government has no say in the union territories.
Okay, tell me one
I
thing. Let's say
mm.
that, for example, we are from Maharashtra, right? How many elections do we vote in?
Okay. I think
Pardon me?
how
How
many
many
elections do
elections
we
do we
vote
vote
in?
in?
Two.
I
Two.
yeah, two. I think
Okay.
I don't think that panchayat elections and all we voted. I think
We
those are,
because yeah, that's a valid point because we don't stay in those areas right now.
yeah.
All of us are from a district or a city, a metropolitan city or a district. If you would have rather been, if your local address would have been from a gram panchayat, then you would have voted for three. So that's the local gram panchayat election. Uh, Maybe we also
J-
vote for, yeah, exactly.
we
So,
From
so
what I recall, we vote only for two elections. One is Lok Sabha elections, and the second one is Vidhan Sabha.
no, we also vote for mayor, like
yeah, exactly. Then if we are not voting
municipality.
for, yeah, if we are not voting for Gram Panchayat because we are in city, then we must be voting for city stuff as well, right? Like the
I don't
mayor or
recall me voting for. I
How do
think
they get elected?
that's a different election, right? So the process of electing a mayor is different. Correct me, Kedar,
Mm.
or
Say,
maybe someone.
एक minute, what was your question again?
So if we
How
are not,
many?
if we are not voting for gram panchayat, that is because we are not living in a,
Rural
rural
area.
area,
That
right?
actually I'm not
But
sure. I was looking into it like is it like a different area, because I've never seen my parents go and vote me. I'm going for a Jilla Parishad.
Exactly, exactly.
Either they didn't know, they didn't, or
I
uh,
think these are
all
more
these,
localized elections in the wards. I mean, I'm not sure about them, but I don't remember voting for mayor at least.
right? So I mean, okay. So let's say there are two for now, two or at the max three for gram panchayat elections. I guess if you live in that area, two or three. Okay. Um, So, and do you know, Kedar, how this whole thing works for US? Like that, what is that electoral college and all that stuff? Because I think, I'll be honest, what has happened is when I was in India, I was not interested in any of this because of like I was a teenage and all that stuff. I was doing other stuff. I wouldn't
yeah,
have put
even
it.
I didn't know. I was like, what is
And
going
when
on?
things started, started getting interest. I was already in US, so I tried to understand that first. And I think, anyways, the US system is a little simpler to understand than the Indian system because India is so vast and culturally
Yes.
diverse and all that. But now what has happened is I don't understand the Indian system, so I'm trying to understand the differences before just understanding the Indian system. So, do you know what that whole electoral college and what Americans vote for? Do they vote only once, and what is all that stuff?
So in US, what? Oh, Satvik, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
let me add one point over here that would maybe clear out something. So I'm just looking at the hierarchy of the administrative structure of India, and at the high level, so the top level, the root of this tree hierarchy is government of India. So that is the central government,
Mm,
and under these central government, that they basically the state governments come under the central government.
mm,
After these state governments, there are divisions. At this point, I'm not sure about divisions, but then these divisions basically are also districts or Zilla Parishad,
mm,
ZP, Zilla
yeah.
Parishads. And
Mm,
under these Zilla Parishads, there are multiple things based upon the population and area of the geographical area of that particular locality. So one is Tehsil in the level. So there is Government of India, state governments, divisions, that is Zilla Parishads, and under Zilla Parishads, there is one Tehsil, there is two municipal corporation, there is three Nagar Palika, that is municipality. So municipality and municipal corporations, these are two terms. And there is
oh.
third, which is city council. At this
Mm,
point, I don't know about city council, but the differentiation between municipality, that is Nagar Palika, and Mahanagar Palika
mm,
is as the name suggests. Mahanagar Palika is for a certain population, which, for example, Nasik is a district, so it will have Mahanagar Palika.
mm,
And Nagar Palika is for small towns, so Sinnar or any such small
mm,
uh,
mm.
uh, area that's
Outskirts,
exactly
suburbs, all that
that
stuff.
will have Nagar Palika.
So
And
I
I
think
guess
even
villages
within
would have,
Nasik also,
yes.
One
within
minute,
Nasik
one
also,
minute.
Nasik district will have Mahanagar.
Yes. For example, Nasik district has its own ZP,
Hmm.
Zilla Parishad, which also, so usually in my civics times, I used to refer if a district has a ZP, it has a municipal corporation.
Okay.
Now, another example is there is a small town known as Malegaon in Nasik
Mm,
district, which has a which also has a municipal corporation.
Right.
Yeah.
mm,
So a district is different. So district is the Zilla Parishad, and then
mm,
later on city perspective. So Nasik city today has Mahanagar Palika, whereas Sangamner, Sinnar, these guys have Nagar Palika.
Oh,
mm,
okay.
There is Nagar Panchayat, which is different, and all in these three, these are then subdivided into wards. So Nasik city has wards, Sinnar has wards, Sangamner has wards, Malegaon has wards.
mm,
After this, there is also separate hierarchy, which is called Tahsil, and under Tahsil, there is Gram Panchayat,
Exactly.
mm,
So Gram Panchayat would mostly apply to small villages.
rural villages. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess the local members themselves elect uh, the head of Gram Panchayat, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sarpanch, what
So
we call.
yeah,
Sarpanch.
so if we want to if you want to go back to question how many times or in how many elections do I vote, my answer would for that would be I since I am in Nasik district, I don't know how I'm eligible to vote for the Mahanagar Palika, but one can vote for the Mahanagar Palika, then state government elections, and then central government elections. So that
Right.
that comes down
At
to three.
least three then.
Yeah, at least three.
Right. Quite
Yeah,
complicated. Mhm.
yeah, I
I think
didn't
it is
know. And
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
on
is. It is.
yeah, it is interesting. And on local level, I didn't have all this information. Like mostly, I know on like a central level.
So
Uh,
it is interesting, it is complicated, and it is shameful that we don't know any of this. At
we
least
don't
I
know,
don't know any of this.
and most of Indians don't know this
Uh,
unless you are like deep into politics. But I think everyone, it's interesting, and I think some of these things, I would prefer having them in like higher education rather than
yeah,
in like seventh, eighth, right? Seventh, eighth. Imagine like eighth, ninth kid you're teaching. That kid is like 15-year-old, and you're teaching them, hey, there is this Gram Panchayat, then Jilla Parishad, then state MP, MLA. This is the bill. It's very,
He is not even eligible to vote then, right?
yeah,
yeah.
not
It
even
doesn't make
eligible
sense.
to, yeah.
He could
I
not
mean,
relate, or she
Mm.
could not relate, right?
yeah,
To
can't
what's going
relate,
around.
and at that time we are only studying for marks. That's it. We're not studying for
Yeah.
knowledge.
I
Anyways,
used to
Amod,
skip civics. I used to skip
Amod.
civics because it was hardly for 10 marks. I used to study history, to be honest.
Same pinch. Amod has a question from chat.
yeah.
I mean, I can understand the complexity, but he has to ask that is there an effort to standardize this?
I think it is standardized. That this is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
standard.
Yeah.
From my understanding, I mean, I am no literate again in this subject,
Mm.
but this actually has been standardized based upon the way the geographical as well as the society structure is there in India.
Right.
Mm.
I think for most part, every country has this based upon their population. So, and also on geography. So, geography also matters.
Yeah.
And since we have states have
Mm.
districts, and districts have again these bifurcations, I think that is more from a management perspective. So, if you want to do something, do it from a local level. And I am not sure about this. This might be wrong, but I think Gram Panchayat was not there before, but to introduce local governance, Gram Panchayat was introduced after the independence. So
Mm.
I read this in civics that the governance should start from the local. So that's the reason Gram Panchayat was
Mm.
introduced, and then Gram Panchayat. After that, the hierarchy was built, and
Mm.
that is how the management. So, in my honest opinion, this is all about management and managing the citizens in
I
terms of their
yeah.
civic rights. Yeah.
I think I don't know this enough if these all these systems are causing delay bottlenecks, or it's a need. So I mean, as to to make Amod's point, I don't know if it is. It might be complicated, but does it mean it's slowing stuff? If it's slowing stuff, then maybe we need a little less systems. So
Yeah, I mean,
and,
Ahmad, I think it's like instead of a bad soup or with many flavors, I think it's
mm,
just necessary because of the
mm,
diversity that India has. And like I said,
Hmm.
I don't think US has such a complex system, and I don't think Europe or UK has such a complex
yeah,
system. But that is because
yeah, we have too
the
many people to manage.
the diversity is
Mm,
less, the population is less, and which also plays a major role because when you have a huge population, you want
mm,
the majority to have their opinion counted, right? Which is not
mm,
easy.
yeah.
So that's why like you can't generalize. Like maybe in other systems it might be, I
Mm,
don't know if it is that you elect at one level, then they elect for you at the level higher to them, so that you don't have
mm,
to elect for that level also, or something like that. That seems pretty easy to do, but
mm,
I think for a country with so much population, it's not fair to have elected somebody and have them represented your voice, or your voice as a generic voice, so maybe I guess it's better to have you do it instead and have multiple elections, something like that.
Yeah. The
I
main.
Also,
I have a question, Kedar. If you can answer this, this might go off topic. Uh, but what's the difference between communism and democracy?
So communism is an economic system. It is so. It is an improvement on capitalism which we currently have, and the aim of communism is making a classless, stateless society. Uh, so democracy is a different thing. Democracy is like people's rule, like you vote your election. In communism, it doesn't matter. So for example, uh, like people confuse communism with dictatorship or authoritarianship. So we have two scales. One is authoritarian, which is more like government is really strict, they want it like that. And libertarian is morely like government is lenient and people are mostly free. So when people point to China and say China doesn't, you cannot say anything, you cannot protest in China because the government is communist. No, the people cannot protest in China because they are authoritarian, not because they are like you
Or
can
maybe
have.
a better
Yeah.
example is North Korea,
Uh, they
North
are the
Korea.
same.
authoritarian.
Like you, yeah. Even North Korea
It
is.
is dictatorship.
North Korea's official, like India's official name is Republic of India. Uh,
Yeah,
North
Right.
Korea's official name is Democratic Republic of North Korea. It's neither a democratic nor the republic. It's a dictatorship. So
interesting.
yeah. So yeah. So communism is like the state owns companies and then you work in those companies. But like in capitalism, like you go, you can start a, you register, the business is in your name, you hire people, those people don't own your company. You they get, you pay them salary and then you keep the profit. So
Okay,
yeah. So the communism, capitalism are economic system, and democracy is more like a functioning of government. So
hmm,
you can be communist and democratic as well. Like like in state of Kerala, the government, they are communist government.
okay.
Right now, the like we done like the state leader is from a Communist Party of India, and like they fight elections, you know. But like in China, Cuba, and all, it's like one party. So in India, democratic, we have multiple parties,
Hmm.
but in China, there's only one party, which is I think it's CPC,
Communist
the
Party of
Communist
China.
Party of China. Yeah, even Cuba, one party.
Okay.
Russia, just for the name, democratic, but it's all rigged.
It's always, yeah.
Yeah.
Opposition is put in jail. Yeah, so that's the difference. That's also a very interesting thing. There's a lot of misconception in that area, and it will need another section.
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
Interesting.
just to be clear, none of these political views are to influence anybody. They are not. We are not experts. They are just personal understandings of each and every one of us. So it is not to be taken as any kind of radicalism, any kind of influence. We are not experts. Do not take our opinions on anything of about this, right? So, anyways,
I think I should
um,
have printed that on a t-shirt and then wear it
yeah.
in this podcast.
No, no, even that can go wrong. So it's better to say it properly. I'll come to your question, Ahmad, in some time, because but we'll try to stick to topic for a little bit. And if we cannot reach there, I'll write it down. We'll come to it in the clubhouse next week. But
Yeah,
because it's an interesting question. But so a question I have, Kedar, is with
yeah,
respect to the topic is, so the difference also from what I've seen is in US states have a lot more autonomy than in India, right? Or is it true, or is it just seems like that, or is it just the same? What is it? Because I think like in US state laws, some in some things state laws overtake national laws, right? and states have more liberty to enforce their laws and stuff like that.
In US, I'm not sure, but I don't think it's like they have more liberty, but uh, so they do have this one thing which I actually admire. Uh, in India, you yourself don't vote on any bill. Your MP votes on a bill. So you
Okay.
elect an MP. Okay, he will promise you he will get thing, and then he can go there and vote for a totally different thing. It's not
Got
in
it.
your hand.
Yeah.
Uh, but in US, on state level, the state government can hold referendum on certain things like uh, should you make do they want marijuana to be legal or a minimum wage. So they had a voting in Florida, and the Florida voted for Trump. And then, but when there was this election also at the same time on these issues, and they voted, they want $15 minimum wage, and they want marijuana legalized also. So these are
Okay. So
different.
left and
The
right
yeah
ideas in the
yeah,
same.
and also if you remember, there was this voting on Uber in
Yeah.
California. What happened was that the government said that so Uber drivers are contractors, they are not Uber
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
employees. So the state government said that no, you have to take them as employees, and then you have to give, once they are employees, you have to give them insurance as well.
Health benefits and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this went to vote, and then I don't know what happened, but so you as an
Is that
individual can vote on a bill on
is that
state
the
level at
town
least.
halls that are conducted? Is that town hall is that the same thing, or is town hall something else?
Town hall is different thing. Town hall has become like a media buzzword, like okay, town hall
Okay.
and
Town hall
on
meetings or something like
so that's
Yeah,
the
even that buzzword is very much
Used in
popular
industry, IT
yeah,
in
industry.
our
that.
in
Yeah.
our
town hall,
office.
yeah.
Yeah, in your office.
Eh,
Anyways, um, so like why I ask this question? So like for example, I know that in India, like for example, some states have beef banned, some don't, right? And that depends on
yeah,
what state government is there. So there's definitely autonomy available in the states. It's not like there
yeah.
isn't. But in US, if you see like more severe things like gun laws are
Hmm.
different for a state, drug laws are different for state,
Yeah,
taxes can be decided by states themselves. Like I don't think
I think
I don't know if in India we pay state taxes and stuff, right? Like
we have
I think no. It's completely same. So even that level of autonomy
autonomy.
autonomy.
yeah, even that level of autonomy, thank you, is there in even in Indian states. I'll give you an example. The petrol prices in Maharashtra are way different from those in Gujarat. There is a separate, so liquor is completely banned in Gujarat.
Yeah.
That's a different law. But at the same time, the excise duty on imports on liquor is I think 100% in Maharashtra, whereas it is completely different in the state of Goa and such laws. So even in that case is applicable in India, and governments
Okay.
do have that autonomy. And these bills are then separately passed out in these individual governments. So Vidhan Parishad is completely going to talk about state government, state bills, and state problems, whereas central is going to talk about the central.
Hmm.
But I think there is one thing that I'm not sure if even that goes on in the US, but it's in terms of funding. Each state is eligible for getting funding from the central government, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure how that works.
Yeah.
So my interesting question was, what if there is a dispute between state and the center? How does it this get resolved?
uh, Interesting question, and I don't know. I think
Oh,
Dispute
what
as
do
in
you
what?
mean? What do you mean? Yeah,
uh,
what do you mean conflict? Like in
With
respect to what?
respect to any law or any bill coming from the center, or any financial decision taken. So
I
I
think
I know one thing, there is some
uh
sort of autonomy given to states
hmm,
for taking a decision with respect to
hmm.
finance. For
I
example,
think
states
GST
are
is a good
free to.
example.
Yeah, exactly. GST.
Yeah.
There were some states were for it, and others were against it.
Okay,
Uh,
so what happened exactly? And that how did it get resolved?
I I don't know. I mean, they passed like in central government. What is state government going to do?
I think
Uh,
yeah, exactly. Kedar has a point. There are certain laws which are enforced by the central government, which wherein the state government has to abide. And then, for example, GST.
mm,
If the GST bill was passed, even the members of parliament representing those states elected, if they want to go with it or not go with it. So I think if for example a state XYZ has a different opinion, they will not vote for it.
Okay.
No,
Or
but here's the
uh,
thing, right? With respect to that, so when you look at it from a point of view where the central government's rule passed or law passed is more liberal, and then the state government decides whether to go with it or not, that's a more straightforward thing where okay we can understand. But what when it's
that
opposite? For example, in US, marijuana is not legal country wise.
mm,
Okay.
So,
state-wise, you mean?
but in different state it is. So in that case, basically the federal government cannot enforce that on the state. So how does that work
Yeah.
in India?
Uh,
So like in India, if central government said beef is banned, and then everybody like Kerala said no, if it's always that the central government can override the state government, then that would mean they can ban it everywhere, right? But that's
actually,
not the
the
case.
beef thing there has actually the beef thing there has. I don't think there's a central bill which has banned it. It's just all states. Like on, it is being done on state level.
Right. Okay.
I don't think so. So, but one interesting thing. So for US, right, marijuana, it on some states have decided that they are legalizing it, but
Correct.
the central government, federal government, it's not legalized. So, if you are in California, like in your house and you smoke weed, you won't be arrested. But if you go
Correct.
to a airport in California,
Hmm.
airport falls under central government, then you will
Right.
be arrested
Right.
even though you are in California where it is legal.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's more like when central laws apply, they are like on central properties, even though the state allows it.
So yeah, so to the point of what Kshitij was saying, which is how about the disputes? I think
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say is, from this at least, what it looks like is, it's not about not every law is if the state and center has different views. I don't think it's always a dispute. I think it depends on the nature of the bill being introduced. If it is, I mean, I think when you introduce, maybe it is like you introduce it as something that will affect the whole nation, or whether you want to do it something which is optional. I don't know whether it's like a checkbox you tick when you introduce the bill, whether you want to make it like a enforce on everybody kind of bill versus central decision, but you can
Yeah,
override kind of bill.
so
Maybe it's
Mm.
like
there
that.
was
I don't
there
know.
was another bill, the Citizenship Act. What was it?
Citizenship Amendment Act. Yeah,
What was the short form? CC something?
CAA.
CC,
C
yeah, CCA.
CAA, but yeah,
CA,
CAA.
sorry.
CAA. Huh.
CA. So CA was a central thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas states from different states in India actually had a different reaction to it, and most of them like same goes with the farmer law. So farmers law,
Yeah. Right.
the way these
Hmm.
central governments are, I think it's more of a central government thing, but the way Punjab people or farmers from the Punjab are reacting to it. So I think that is how the conflicts are there, and in either case, if there is a lot of opposition, even central government can take it back. I think that's how it works.
So I think if both center and state both are adamant and stubborn, and they are not coming to a point of resolution, I think this is where judiciary system might come into a role. I'm not sure
Hmm.
about it because I've seen in the past that with respect to such sort of disputes, one can move Supreme Court of India. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think that is exactly what happened with farm laws. These guys repeatedly, consulted the High Court as well as Supreme Court of the state as well as central. I'm not sure what happened after that, but yeah, that's the thing. So
Hmm.
Could
it's
be.
an
Yeah.
interesting fact in the system Today the Supreme Court and the High Court is supposed to be neutral in terms of parties and the way they handle the law. So
Right,
maybe that's the benefit of that. Yeah, exactly.
right,
Mm.
Abhishek is saying, my opinion, it should be like United States, where each state has their own agenda instead of central government dictating
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, I
right.
mean, I think that's what I'm trying to understand. I don't understand. I don't think either of right now understand completely how US is working either or how India is working. But yeah, I think irrespective of how each of them are working, I think I do kind of agree with what he's saying that there should be autonomy to states given to some more extent maybe than it is right now. Uh, but yeah, anyways, I think we are gonna have to wrap up today's episode a little earlier than usual. So we might cut down on topics to be shorter today, unfortunately, because some of us have commitments.
Mm.
But so I think Kshitij brought up a good point about judicial system, and we had decided to talk a little about it.
Mm.
So if Kedar or anybody wants to expand on that, that would be great.
And have we discussed about executives that belong to the parliament, like IAS, IRS, and all those? We,
No.
if not, we can. It's definitely something worth discussing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's,
Their
I think
powers.
that's, let me add to this. I think that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
Right
So.
now, we are discussing about how the
Mm.
governments are formed on state and central level, but the IIS and Indian services that you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, that's a completely different story.
But
Mm.
I guess they still need to work with state executives, right? The
Yeah.
So,
executives, and how?
from what I understand, that is a backbone for these central and state governments, as well as the municipal or local government. So I think that's a backbone for. So why do you have a collector? Why do you have a commissioner? These guys are
Right.
not elected the way the
Mm-hmm.
MLAs and the MPs are elected. So
Mm.
that's a different story, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a very interesting topic. This is a very vast
I mean, in
thing to
any
cover.
case, do these officials have higher authority or higher powers than the rest of the folks? I mean, that's something worth discussing, right? I think we can take that up later at some point
Yeah.
in the future sessions.
That comes into a lot of like dirty politics.
Right.
Basically,
Yeah.
is the boss on your side? You know.
Yes.
So depends on that. But,
Right.
I think at this moment, for sure, we don't know the clarity. We
mm.
don't have the clarity, but each of these. So, for example, chief minister has certain responsibilities. That
Mm.
responsibilities is one, and with that, they also have certain levels of clearances and certain powers in their hands.
Right.
So,
Mm.
there are some things that they can do without asking anyone. There are some things that they need to consult. They need to have a majority around that, and there are some things which they don't have in control. So for example, the state police,
Mm.
so the commissioner of police has certain rights in its own, that if there is some law of unlawful act, if even if it
Mhm.
is at the chief minister level, they have certain rights. So I think it's pretty clear from the constituency that a person who is at a particular position in the hierarchy, so be it civil services or be it the political system, these are actually clearly defined. And I think, I mean, dirty politics, and that's a different story. But from what is worth, these guys have actually bifurcated those responsibilities and roles based upon the
Mm.
position, as well as where they in the system are working.
Right.
Mm. True.
Yeah. Let's talk about all this at some point.
I think we should do a follow up on the
Yes.
civics
Yeah.
too, and have someone guest with
Yeah,
actual experience in the field.
Right.
definitely, definitely. I
I think
think
that would
in our
be,
next clubhouse, we'll be able to talk about some of these things for sure. It's an interesting topic. But to clarify with confidence, we definitely need another episode someday with an expert.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Probably we need a sketchboard where we can draw stuff.
True,
Yes. Right.
true. Yeah.
Track.
So judicial system though, like Supreme Court, High Court, judges, and anything. If anybody wants to talk on that quickly.
Mm. I like from my limited knowledge. So the Indian Supreme Court has three benches. and our government doesn't get to decide Supreme Court judges. The judicial system does. But in US, there are 9 seats, and the government chooses. So it becomes really political.
Yeah, that's always been confusing to me.
Yeah, it's very odd. And those are they don't even have like term limits. The judges. So once you appoint, they are there till the rest of their lives. So it can be it
But then,
becomes. Hmm.
the judicial system, the way these guys pass a statement around issues, that's completely different from what is done here in India. For example, there is a panel from the public which has their own right to say. I'm not sure how much it influences the final decision, but against a particular case. But that's completely opposite in case of India. India, there are multiple trials. There is this a long list of things that we need to do if we want to fight against a particular case, wherein people or the common man does not have any say in what should
See,
happen. But then
you're
in
talking
case of
about the
US,
jury.
jury, exactly, yeah,
We used to have it, but I think if you have seen that Rustam movie, I think that was the case after which India got rid of the jury system. Before that, we did have it, but the
interesting.
jury, yeah. But as far as I know, that it was pretty clear that he had done the murder or something like that. But they ruled against him with sentiment and also after that, India decided to get rid of the jury system. But that's a very interesting topic actually, because I'm on the fence on that with respect to whether a jury system is better or not. But anyways,
Mm.
that's a topic for another day.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
You guys want to wrap up?
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Um, 1 minute fact for today.
Fact of the day.
Yeah,
Let's
fact
go.
of the day. It's from recent news. And Kedar, if at all you have to bounce, it's fine. I understand. So, from recent news in last week. So for the first time, we have seen light from the other side of a black hole.
Yeah, I read
Um,
that news.
yeah, and
Very
and
interesting.
if you have seen Interstellar, right? Um, you might know that. So you if you remember the image of a black hole, then it's like there's a disk like this, and then there is a disk like this also, right? Like you see light all around, and
Event
then
horizon.
yeah, so you see it like this. But what you need to understand is that the light that is there horizontal to your plane of sight, that's the only circle that is actually there. What you see around here and here, that's light from behind that is bent, and you see
Yeah,
around the black hole. It's not
yeah,
actually two disks like intersecting each other like this and like
yeah.
this. It's not like that.
Wait a
So
sec.
But
Did you say that the light pierced through the black hole and
no,
came
no,
on
no,
this side?
no,
no.
no. That's not
So
possible
consider
because
this.
light
So
cannot escape
consider
black
this.
hole.
Right.
Consider this.
Mm-hmm.
Consider this. Okay. If this is a revolving body,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so something like Saturn. Saturn has an ice ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that ring is actually in a plane
Right.
that you might say is in some sense horizontal to the planet
Right.
Saturn.
Perpendicular,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In a way, and consider that any object that is moving in the space would rather influence objects around it, and it will also move in some plane.
Right.
Not necessary, but majority of it moves in a plane. Now, in case of black hole, what happens is a lot of gases are present around a black hole, and a lot of thing goes on around this. So there are objects that actually there are stars who actually emit light and all those things. In case
Mm.
of black hole, because the theory of relativity that you know uh, heavy objects in the space, because of the space time fabric, they can actually bend the electromagnetic waves, and light
They
being an
can
electromagnetic wave,
they can
Mm-hmm.
bend
uh, it,
space is what the
exactly. And
general
also
relativity
time.
says.
Time, it's a
Yeah.
different story, not in this part, but because we are talking about an image, what happens is the horizontal light that you see, as Nirmik mentioned, that basically, if it is behind the black hole,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
because it black hole has the tendency to bend it, you see it on the top.
Okay.
And
And
same thing
bottom, yeah.
happens for the bottom.
Yeah.
mm,
Mm.
So
And in
it's like
actually,
looking at
actually,
Saturn, but you see
exactly.
the back of the ring on top and bottom
Yeah,
also.
exactly. So the stuff, I mean, it's like at the same moment you see its front, you see its back, you see its sides. So
Mm.
that's the thing.
If
But
you
I
stand
I
in if you stand in front of black hole, you'll be able to see your head in front
Mm.
of your eyes.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
So
The thing is, I don't understand. Even I read this article, but I don't
Yeah.
understand. I correct me if I'm wrong. In 2020 or in 2019, scientists for the first time took a picture of a black hole.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a black dot around which there was a red sphere.
Hmm.
Even that, but even in that case, they also talked about that the light is bending and all those things. So why is this discussed right now, and why is this?
So
Why people are talking about, again, the theory of relativity is confirmed. The light is bent, and how is this different from the picture that was taken a year back?
So the picture that we took, number one thing is that the picture that we took, it's not that clear, right? And it's not in
Hmm.
visible light range. I mean, it is in
Hmm.
visible light range, but only some part of it. This discovery is in the X-ray range. It's not in the visible light range. Okay,
All right.
and even at that time, the picture that we see, I think we don't know if we see the front and back and everything from that of in that image. Basically, we don't know what all we see in that image because it is so blur. Okay, invisible light at least. But now why we are seeing, and first of all, it is not the first time general theory of general relativity has been confirmed. It has
Yeah.
been confirmed lot of times before, because we have seen galaxies look like rings because of
Hmm.
other galaxies bending that light.
Yeah,
So
because there is a black hole between the
yeah,
galaxy and us.
yeah, yeah,
So
Mm.
that's the reason. Yeah.
exactly. And the time bending that I think that comes under theory of special relativity. But anyways, there are two things: general relativity and special relativity. There are theories for both.
Mm.
And this is about general relativity. Now, how they have detected this time is with using something called redshifting. And
Ah, yeah.
redshifting is used widely to measure how far something is or how
Right.
old
Hmm.
something is. And why what is redshifting in short is what is light is a wavelength. Like, I mean, one of the behavior of light is as a wave, right? One is particle, one is wave. But when you say wave, if you remember any of your science classes, I think anybody was not taken
Sunset. Let's talk about sunset.
sunset. What sunset?
Why sunset is red or orange?
No, that's a little different
That
than.
that's the same thing actually. Because when
Because
in
we
the
have
evening.
always painted it that way.
Oh,
No,
nice.
no.
Joke of
No,
the
no,
day.
sunset is orange. See, sunset is orange because of the atmosphere of Earth. Sunset is
Yeah.
blue on Mars. So it's not the same thing.
No, no, but the thing is, I do agree it's also depends upon the atmosphere, but in specifically in case of Earth, the atmosphere is actually also bending the light. And what
Ah.
happens when
Yeah.
sunset happens? Basically the Earth, the position where from where you're watching the sunset, you are at an angle where the sun's rays are actually hitting you with an angle. So it also has to do with refraction. But the thing is, most of the wavelengths that Nirmik was talking about earlier in the Vibgyor spectrum, the red is the one with the longest wavelength.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
right, Nirmik? So
Yeah.
because of that, it can travel further.
Well, you're right, but
Ah. Okay.
but the sunset is not red because of that. It is bending, but it's not because of a redshift. Redshift is when a wave has traveled long enough that it is dampening now. So
Yeah,
instead of being close and high and very close, now it is becoming longer. Like the what is it? The length of the wave, whatever it is called, that is becoming longer, and so the light is becoming redder and redder, comparatively redder rather. So we measure the red shift, meaning how much the light has shifted from what it must be. So at least as far as I know, sunset is not because of that. But basically, how we
yeah,
counted this,
I do agree. It's not because of redshift.
yeah.
I
So
I was.
how we measured this is we measure the light coming X-ray light coming from the front, and then we measure some X-rays that we detected few microseconds or milliseconds or whatever some time later, And we looked at the red shift of both of them, and we saw that the one that came later is more red shifted, meaning it is comparatively more, the wavelength is more. So it means that it has traveled more, so it is coming from behind the black hole. And why these X-rays get emitted is also a fact. So if do you know, you guys know about solar flares, right?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
look at the sun, you'll very close up photos of the sun or of the corona. Basically, you will see these like wavy things or magnetic line like looking volcanic things. So they are actually magnetic lines.
Eruptions in the
Yeah,
yeah.
and they are actually magnetic lines. So even black holes have such magnetic lines that are there, and as on sun also, sometimes these magnetic lines uh, break, and that's when a solar flare, big solar flare happens, when the earth gets a lot of electromagnetic radiation and all that stuff. Something similar happens in a black hole, and that is when these x-rays are suddenly emitted, and that's what we are looking at, and that's what we saw come into different redshifted x-ray wavelengths, and that's how we have for the first time observed light from behind a black hole, which also confirms the theory of general relativity, which has also been confirmed before, but now through black holes, basically, or direct observation of black holes.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're stuck, I think, Satvik.
No, that's fine.
No, you are stuck. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not fine.
fine as
Why
in
are you stuck, Satvik?
I'm
My
redshifting right now.
yeah, redshifting.
My Wi-Fi is redshifting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so that's
Anyways, that was a fun thing to discuss.
yeah, definitely. And yes, Amod, there are going to be a lot of podcasts about space and cosmos. I have a lot of topics written down, but I didn't want to turn this whole podcast series into talking about space and cosmos. That's why we don't do it too often. Uh, but we'll do it at regular intervals for sure. Um, so yeah, that was the fun fact for today. If does anybody else have any other fact?
I don't have fact, but I just read one article last week regarding cybersecurity, and it blew it literally. I mean, it was mind blowing, to be honest. Have you heard of data breaches? Right, most of the
Yeah,
companies get
yeah.
affected, and according to a study done by Gartner, most of the companies take almost more than 6 months to detect a data breach. 6 months.
Pardon me?
Yes,
Seriously?
6 months. Yes, like Equifax. Have you heard of Equifax data
No.
Yeah,
breach?
What?
There were many, right?
yeah.
So on an average, they almost take six
Kshitish,
more than
Kshitish,
6 months.
Kshitish,
Yes,
we want you to talk as all of us know here right now. Uh, you are expert in cybersecurity. There are a lot of issues that are going on right now, and for most, even I, being into the industry, I for sure don't know. For example, I don't have that clarity in terms of what Pegasus is,
right,
what's going on with Apple's updates, how it is, how why Indian government is forcing a lot of things. I think we should have a separate podcast talking about cybersecurity as well
right.
as laws around these.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
Let's.
definitely wanted to have one, but we gave him some time because he had some commitments. But it's coming. It's soon.
It's coming. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So along with me, it would be great if somebody is, well acquainted with the cyber laws, international and Indian cyber laws. If you have any references, uh, please get in touch with us,
I
and
mean, I
then we'll
think there
try.
are there are both. These are two topics, and we both are very interesting. One is
Right,
just cybersecurity, and then one is related to
laws
cyber
around it.
laws around and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Would be interesting. Yeah,
All right. Yeah. Cybersecurity in autonomous cars. Yeah, we'll cover that also. Yeah, that's
yeah.
also interesting for sure. All right.
That's going to be a 2 hour long discussion talking about Jeep and talking about Teslas and how people just ram it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have a lot of topics for our podcasts. No, we don't need to worry about running out of ideas anytime soon.
I think what I was also planning was if I take a session on cybersecurity, I would also like to show some practical attacks as to how they are done, and maybe I'll give a
Do,
short
do you
demo.
want do you want college students to attend that session?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any limitations on the audience, right? They could be college
I
students.
was kidding. I mean, come on. You did not
Um,
get the
I
joke.
mean, yeah, Dharmik was saying something.
no. Anyways, I was just saying. I think let's wrap it up for today. We did have a little shorter episode today, but as we know, like people have commitments sometimes, so that's why. But thank you so much for hanging out, and thank you to Kedar for all the knowledge he imparted on us, and Satvik for all the knowledge. I was the
No,
dumbest
Kedar,
here today,
Kedar.
so.
Kedar
Uh,
stole the show, not me.
I think we'll continue this topic with experts someday, but that's it for today from my side. Anything else you guys want to say?
No, I think it was a short session, but quite insightful. We'll definitely continue more on this in the coming
For
days.
for one, actually, I should add, we should literally do a more elaborate session around what civics is in India, specifically in India, uh, and also around the basic laws that are there that everyone should know. So it's a very important thing that today people don't know about these basic stuff, and because it is taught at a very different level,
Right,
we should have a discussion around this. It would be very very insightful, not just for us, but all the viewers as well.
right.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for coming here. And we'll
Yeah.
see you on Clubhouse next Sunday, and then on another live episode the Sunday next to that on our Independence Day.
Mm.
So, thank you, everyone.